Hello there, and welcome to Gooner U, where there are no degrees because the learning never stops. I'm Dove, a TA here at Gooner U, and my friend Keith is our stalwart distinguished professor of Arsenal and football studies. Enter our classroom as we discuss the week's news involving Arsenal, Premier League, Champions League, international football, and sometimes MLS, because we're Americans. This week, Arsenal played 2 matches in the Premier League, hosting Brentford in a midweek match, and then traveling to Villa Park to play Aston Villa on Saturday. Hello, Keith.
Hello, Dove. It's a busy time of the year, isn't it? In soccer terms. I mean, in the other, normal life too, but it's really been, had a lot this week.
Yeah, definitely. It was interesting. I guess they put the extra matches in this time of year because there's other times of year where they can't, and why not? Because I guess there's a lull in FA Cup and Champions League and whatever else. So, yeah.
Yes, as Mitchell and Webb reminds us, the football, it never ends.
In our household, basketball has been top of mind recently. My son played his first game yesterday, so his first competitive game, with a referee and a scoreboard and all that stuff, actually, and used the whole time. The final score for this game, so they played 4 6-minute quarters, so it was a little less than half an hour game. Final score was 8-4. So a basketball game with a score that resembles a soccer game.
It's an aggressive soccer game.
A little bit. It's closer to a soccer game than basketball games usually are.
Well, yes. I assume shooting at 10-foot rims.
I think they're lower than regulation. I don't actually know how high they are. They're definitely high enough that it is tricky for them. I know that much. And the balls that they're using are one size down from adult, male balls.
Right, yeah.
The balls that they're using are the women's size, 28.5 inches.
Yeah, I knew. So. Yeah, I knew it. As kids, they use a smaller ball. I wasn't sure.
Well, it's a bigger ball than last year. So they were using a size, I think it's a size 5 that they were using last time. It's different. It's a different scale than with soccer balls. But the size they were using before was 27.5. Now they're up to 28.5, and a men's adult is 29.5. So yeah, that was fun. But I've started watching a little bit more basketball too. I was in fact watching the Bulls play the Golden State Warriors before we recorded. I don't actually know how that game ended. They closed the gap during the third quarter to only be behind by 10 points going into the fourth quarter, but I wasn't able to watch the fourth quarter. The funny thing, though, is just it's so funny noticing some of the differences and pointing out to my son a lot of the differences that he may not be noticing on his own. But for one thing, a player went down injured, and you saw him on the bench a little bit later with tissue stuffed in his nose. He'd gotten whacked, I guess, had a bloody nose or something. But as he's seeking medical treatment, the lights go down in the United Center, and apparently they brought out the cheerleaders to do a dance routine while the player is getting medical attention. And I'm just imagining if you were to do such a thing during a soccer match, how ridiculous it would look.
I mean, for a lot of reasons. I have to say, if you ever get a chance, a live NBA game in particular is fascinating because there's always stuff happening. They play music during the game, which is weird in really any other sport. Right. Even in college basketball, bands stop playing and all that, but you get to the NBA and they do that. So yeah, when there's any break in the action, something else has to be happening. And that's before you get into you watch basketball and the court is just so tiny.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider how freakishly large some of these people are. I mean, as basketball players, obviously their length or their width and their, in their terms of their wingspan and their height. Yeah, it's really something to watch.
It was driven home. I was in a Staples earlier today, and they had a life-size stand-up of Shaquille O'Neal. And it's jeez. You just almost don't believe that a person can be that big.
We'll talk about this a little bit. I saw some pictures from the World Cup draw, and he was one of the famous celebrity guests pulling balls out of the pot. Okay. And they have a picture of him standing next to Tom Brady. Now, Tom Brady's, was an NFL quarterback, was a decent-sized human being, and Shaq towers over him. It's incredible how large that guy really is. Yeah. Because you see him in pictures all the time, but it's usually in ads and stuff where he's clearly being matched with people who are either average height or sometimes below average height because it's funny, big person, small person. Tom Brady is not a small person. And again, he towers over him. It's just fascinating to watch sometimes. Yeah. Realize how big these guys are.
Well, why don't we get into the news a little bit? So the World Cup draw happened this week. What should we know about that?
Wow. I guess so. By way of, if you guess you could say pre-gaming, so to speak, for this one, I read The Athletic had a great article earlier this week on the World Cup draw in 1993, which was to set up for the 94 World Cup, the last one in the U.S. It was held in Las Vegas. It was a very different ceremony or different event than what they typically had for that sort of thing. It was very, I keep saying it was very American. I think the way to say it was very Las Vegas. My favorite part is a random impromptu stand-up routine by Robin Williams. Which is probably about as awesome as it sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy, the way it all plays out. A lot of it involves the fact that the president of FIFA, a man named Sepp Blatter, Blatter, the fact that his name is, what's the term? It's a homophone. Sounds like a part of the human body. I'll just leave it at that. Robin Williams, ladies and gentlemen.
Was part of the human body, but also part of a soccer ball.
Apparently, Robin Williams was a huge soccer fan as well. Like, was chatting with some people backstage and knew, like, actually could talk about what was, because he knew players, he knew teams, and so it's just.
I didn't impressive. Know that, but now that you bring it up, his character plays soccer a lot in Mrs. Doubtfire, actually, and so I guess that adds up a little bit.
I believe he was supposed to be. Mrs. Doubtfire was supposed to be English, wasn't she?
Yes.
Which would make sense.
The voice he took on, yeah.
Also, there's a weird bit about why Pele doesn't show up, which is fascinating because, as they point out, if you had asked most Americans in 1993, what do you know about soccer? They almost invariably would have said Pele. But he wasn't there. So anyway, check that out. It's a really cool story. So in Texas time, the draw program, I guess you could call it, began at 12 noon. 1 p.m. on the East Coast. It was 10 a.m. on the Pacific Coast. And I had an event to go to at about 12:45. So I could only watch the first 45 minutes. I saw Andrea Bocelli sing, which was nice, I suppose. I saw Kevin Hart and Heidi Klum do, I can't call them jokes, but, do pre-show banter, as it were. What else was there? Donald Trump was awarded the FIFA Peace Prize, the most prestigious award created in the last calendar year, of course.
Wow.
I forget what else happened. There was a lot that happened. One thing I didn't see in those 45 minutes was any teams being selected at all for any groups in the World Cup, and had to receive text messages from various people, including my brother, as far as how the draw was actually playing out. So it was a tremendous spectacle. Apparently, when it was all over, the Village people kind of hobbled on stage. And I say hobbled because a few of them are still the original Village people. Came on stage and performed YMCA because, of course, they did. Wow. Spectacle kind of. It was a lot. That's all I'm going to say. It was a lot. Yeah. But most importantly, we have World Cup groups. It's coming. We're just a little over 6 months away. I'm very excited. It's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, so let's dig into that a little bit. So I know America is guaranteed to be the pot one pick for Group D. Who else is joining us in Group D?
So our group, our opener will be against Paraguay. We will also play Australia, and then we are also going to get, and once I knew it was Paraguay and Australia, this wasn't a surprise. We're going to have a European team who's the winner of the Playoff C tournament, which will be held in March. It will be one of Slovakia, Kosovo, Turkey, or Romania. Okay. And my initial impression out of all of this is that is a very winnable group for us. That
sounds like it, yeah.
I look through there. Paraguay will be tough, very strong defensively. Certainly they've come out of South America. Australia's got some talent, but we also beat them a couple months ago. So I feel pretty good about that possibility. As far as the UEFA winner, I'd say the favorite out of that is going to be Turkey. And Turkey, this summer we played Turkey, and they gave us a pretty good thumping. But I think we're in a better place now.
It sounds like we've been doing pretty well, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're in a better place now, so I think that'll be really interesting to see if it's Turkey. I mean, they might not make it out. Frankly, I was just thrilled that as that draw took place, that we didn't get the playoff involving Italy. So we don't have Italy. So we don't have Italy in our group. So honestly, I'm not going to say we should win this group, but barring that fourth team, if it's Turkey, okay. But I think this is a group we have a pretty good shot at winning. I think we should definitely finish top two.
Yeah,
with having home field advantage, I think that we really need to, and apparently set ourselves up, because I think they said if we finish in third, our most likely opponent then is Portugal, which I don't know about that.
So viewers and listeners will probably know, but it's worth a reminder for any who don't. We typically do shorts Monday through Friday that get posted to all the places where you can watch short form video content. And those topics are very often pulled from things that we talk about on the show, but we've been trying to branch out more and do things that aren't directly covered on the show. And one thing that we did on Thursday was kind of a preview going over what is the cup draw, like what is determined, how is it determined, things like that. And in preparing that short, when I was coming up with artwork for it, I became aware of the term group of death. This is not something that I have heard before that time. I now am to understand it's just really a really tough group of like stern competition across the group. Like, do we have a group of death in this World Cup this time?
We do. The group of death is generally given to, and sometimes it's one of those fun things to debate which one is the group of death. It's the term given to the group that's generally considered the strongest competition. This time, the group of death is almost by unanimous consent. It's Group I, headlined by France. France is there. Also, Senegal out of Africa, who is, I think I saw their FIFA ranks them currently 19th in the world. So one of the tougher ones you could get out of pot two. Out of pot three, they got Norway, who is the one team nobody wants to face. So thankfully it wasn't us. And then they're also going to have some sacrificial lamb coming out of the the last of the intercontinental playoffs. One of Bolivia, Suriname, or Iraq. I think Iraq would probably be the toughest out of those. Although Bolivia would be no joke, even coming out of South America. Suriname is unlikely to qualify, which would be a wonderful story if they did, and it would be a very, very short World Cup for Senegal to get France, Norway, or for Suriname to get France, Norway, and Senegal.
Right.
But they'd be in it, and it would be their debut. So I can't, I'm sure they would take it, and good luck to them.
Right. So another thing that's cool to note coming out of the draw is we now know which group stage matches are going to be played in which venues. So which matches should we be looking to in our local stadia that we can take in these things?
Right. So I was looking ahead. So I live in Houston, in the Houston area. We're going to have, I'm not going to read them all off, but Portugal will be here twice, which will be interesting. They're going to play Uzbekistan in their final group game. Germany, Curacao is the first game that'll be here. So the Germans, a big name. The Dutch will be here on June 20th. And then, so it's funny, in the Arsenal group chat, one person actually does have tickets for a game, which he bought, of course, before the draw. So sight unseen. He has tickets to Cabo Verde versus Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
Which, I mean, so the other four games involve Portugal, the Netherlands, or Germany, and he got the one that didn't. So we'll see. Also, it's going to be by far the cheapest of those. And then Houston does have two knockout stage games, the round of 32, including the winner of Group C, which is very likely to be Brazil. So we could have Brazil here in the round of 32.
Nice. Try and see some Gunners in action. Is Ronaldo still playing for Portugal?
He is expected to be on their roster. Yes. Okay. He probably shouldn't be. The team, frankly, looked a lot better without him in the year. I think in the Euros and in some previous tournaments, but in the last World Cup. But he's also Ronaldo. I think he's trying to go. I think the record. We set a record. I think it's trying to either play in or score in 6 World Cups, which is just impressive. Like,
yeah, that's a long time span. Yeah.
Let's see. You are in New York, or in the New York area. So yeah, speaking of Brazil, they're going to be there. France, Senegal will be there, and Norway, Senegal. So you get 2 of those group of death games in the Meadowlands. Germany, Ecuador, Brazil, Morocco, and then also Panama, England on the 27th. Which, I mean, you get England. That's cool. Panama's they'll be tough, but I expect England to handle that. I mean, wow, those are really good matchups. Wow.
Yeah, I'd love to see England and or Norway. I mean, that would be pretty cool.
Norway Senegal could be a fascinating game. So something to think about. You also, of course, in New York gets a game in the round of 32, the round of 16, and then, of course, famously the final, which I don't think you plan on going to.
I don't think I can afford to, even if I mean,
if you've got $6-7 grand lying around, sure,
Yeah, that would be something. But yeah, I need to look into those press passes.
Yeah. And then real quick, you mentioned, so your parents live in the Dallas area, and I know you said you might be around that summer, during the summer there. So some fun games there. Netherlands, Japan, England, Croatia, Argentina, Austria, Japan a second time versus at this point unknown European team, and then Jordan, Argentina. Plus Dallas gets 2 round of 32 games, the round of 16, and then 1 of the semifinals.
Is Tomiyasu healthy yet? I know he's departed Arsenal, but
I have not heard anything about his progress. Obviously, he's sort of out of sight, out of mind from our perspective. Hopefully, for his sake, he plays for Japan this summer. That would be nice for him. Guess I look through. So just looking at the Houston games, Portugal. One of Portugal's games is against one of the intercontinental playoff teams. The Dutch will play one of the to be determined European teams. So those matchups could become a little more attractive, depending on the results. Right now, I would say Houston does not have a particularly sexy draw in terms of our games here, but that's okay. Whatever. I want to go to one of them. It's the World Cup. I don't care.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's. I hope to go to at least one. I mean, maybe I'll be able to repeat what I did for Copa America and see one in the Meadowlands, see one at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. Who knows? We'll see how that goes. So you put in here, I guess there's been some news with USA College Soccer.
Yes, we're towards the end of the season of that. Just a quick shout out: the Women's College Cup began this weekend. Shout out to the TCU women. Go Frogs. They lost the semifinal to national power Florida State, but they were in the College Cup, the Final Four, which has been an impressive. The growth that program has shown over the last few years is awesome. Unfortunately, they'll come to an end. That final will be tomorrow. I forgot to look who Florida State was playing. TCU lost. I don't care anymore. And then also, just as of yesterday, the men's Final Four, the men's College Cup was set. It will include Furman, Washington, NC State, and St. Louis. So they'll be next weekend in North Carolina for the men's College Cup.
All right. It's time to talk MLS Cup. We are entering, probably for the final time this season, the Messi room. So did you catch any of the MLS Cup that happened yesterday as we record?
I watched some of the second half. It was 1-0 to Miami when I turned it on.
Okay.
But I did see shortly afterwards, I saw Vancouver scored a level, and then Miami 2 goals towards the end to ultimately win and seal their first ever MLS Cup. So congrats to Inter Miami and to their merry band of Argentine misfits. They're multiple World Cup and Champions League winners across their roster.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm reading this is the first time that a single person has won a World Cup and MLS Cup. So I guess it's a sign of MLS progressing through, becoming a better, more world-renowned league, I guess, gaining in stature.
I don't think that, because I can think of a handful of players who have been in MLS who have won World Cups, but usually before they had come to MLS. I mean, in the case of Messi, too, Muller and all those guys.
Right.
I don't know if they had won. I know they had played in World Cups.
Right. I think it's someone who they were saying. I think I can find the article or something that I'd seen on The Athletic, and they were talking about it in the broadcast too. That they were saying no matter who won, it would be the first time because of Mueller or because of Messi. And Sergio Busquets and DePaul, like those players. So no matter which side won, that was going to be the history that was made. So the fact that we've got that level of player that is beginning to pervade MLS, it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting little tidbit there. And I know Muller coming over to Vancouver, I can't say he really transformed that side. Vancouver's been really good all season. I did pick them to win this matchup, but congrats to Miami on pulling it off.
Did you happen to see the replay of the first goal?
No, actually, I didn't see any replay of it.
So this was early. It was an early goal in that match sometime in the first 10 minutes. And it was, I want to say Allende was crossing to Messi. And I believe the player from Vancouver was Ocampo. He went to intercept and block it. And instead of clearing it over the byline, knocked it over the goal line for an own goal to lead off scoring in that match. It was one of those things like, you feel bad for the guy to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah. It was a fun match though, and it was another first for me in soccer. So usually I'm either watching live or more often watching the full match replay later in the day. But with MLS Cup, it was domestic soccer, and I was almost able to watch live, except that kickoff was like at the halftime mark for my son's basketball game. So there's no way I was going to be able to watch the whole thing live. And by the time we got home and got settled, it was late enough I wasn't even going to see the whole second half. So what I basically did was I watched it time shifted. So I began it like it was still happening, but I wasn't watching it live. I was watching from the beginning as the match was concluding. So that was something else. I had my wife, who wasn't going to watch the whole thing with us, put it on so I didn't risk seeing scores in the Apple TV app or anything. So I was able to go in not knowing. And it was funny. She did end up watching some of the match with us and pointed out that she greatly prefers watching Miami over Arsenal. She just likes their play style. She can't stand, I guess it's kind of like what I remember The Simpsons making fun of soccer with in 1994 when the World Cup came to the US, when it's just when you just see them passing the ball around and like it's just she doesn't like seeing that. She wants to see the more aggressive pushes toward the goal and things like that.
I have many thoughts there, but your wife is a very nice person, so I'm not going to follow up on that.
Yeah, no, I was trying to dissuade her too, but I guess she likes what she likes. But yeah,
that's fair. That's fair. You like what you like, and and I've defended MLS many times on this program, so I'm not gonna back off from that necessarily.
But yeah, so congratulations to Miami and to Leo Messi. I guess David Beckham was saying that it took him 5 years with, what was it? Was it LA Galaxy or LAFC?
Yeah, he left before LAFC came in, so he was Galaxy.
Galaxy, okay. And I guess it took him 4 years being there before they won the MLS Cup. And it took Messi 3 seasons. This is his 3rd season there. So, it's impressive. And they're playing well. It's definitely not the Messi show. I mean, like, he's clearly the best player, but there's a lot of talent there. They actually are a really good team. It was fun to watch the last few matches.
Well, I didn't have so much fun in their previous one, but that's
no
the conversation for now. But yeah, certainly a deserving winner. Had an excellent season, a good season, and excellent playoff run. Really all came together, and there were some questions about that because they had struggled at times. There were questions had been asked at various points of the season in the previous years. Were they just kind of going through the motions? Were they? Did they have the right attitude? Did they actually have enough depth of talent? I mean, obviously the top level was as good as the league has ever seen, period. But beyond that, were you going to get all 11 guys on the field to play their part? And they ultimately did. So congrats to Miami. We'll all go again for the last full single calendar year season. Will start in February. So
yeah. All right, it's that time. Let's talk Arsenal. We had a win this week and a loss this week. It was one of our few losses this week. I think only our 2nd loss across competitions this season so far.
Yes, and of course they're both in the Premier League. But yes, only our 2nd loss of the season. That was on Saturday. 6:30 my time, 6:30 a.m. my time kickoff. But we did pick up a win against Brentford midweek. So
yeah, there's that balancing it out a little bit.
Yeah. Perhaps more disturbing, if you think about it, we've now gone without a clean sheet in 5 of our last 6 games. But I do think a lot of that is just connected to the biggest issue we've been facing over the last couple of weeks, and that's and not just injuries. Obviously, it's injuries, but really sort of the clustering of injuries. We've seen this over the last few years, right? There was that one year where all of our left backs got hurt. And then there was that one year where all of our, last year, all of our forwards got hurt. And then there was this year when all of our forwards got hurt. But this year, where we've really been hit in the last couple of weeks, has been central defenders. Right. Gabriel out, Saliba out. We ended up losing. We'll talk about Messi-era went out in this game. It's been a lot. And I think I don't know that Brentford was quite the one to test us, but certainly by the weekend we had gotten it. But certainly it's definitely put a dent in our defensive strength. Even though we're still a really good defensive side, it's hard to maintain that level without arguably the best center back pairing in the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny when we were talking about, I forget if it was the NYCFC Miami match or the one before that, but in the MLS Cup competition. But I just remember saying, like, with Miami, they get up 1-0. I don't feel like, okay, well, victory is more or less assured. That has been the case with Arsenal, certainly this season and a lot of times in past seasons. And not really this week. I haven't felt, especially after Messi-era came out. It's just like, we need that extra goal. And you really, really saw that at Aston Villa yesterday. But it's we're faltering in the defense. Like that's definitely the biggest thing affecting us right now.
And I hesitate to call it faltering. I mean, first off, even Messi-era played well when he's come in. Pierre Hincapié has played pretty well when he's come in, but when you have that sort of constant replacement and, 2 guys trying to figure each other out, working with Raya as well. We've talked about, obviously, Messi-era comes out. Now you've got Timber slotting in as a center back, and we started to integrate Ben White a little bit more in on the right back. Like that kind of rotation, it just sort of, it takes a little bit of time to create that chemistry. And it feels like once Gabriel went down, we've never quite been able, like Saliba went out earlier in the season for a couple of games. And we had a couple of games with Gabriel and Messi-era, and it went okay. They figured it out. But once, he came back and reintegrated and it was fine. But, once, Gabriel went out, then Saliba, and then it starts to add up, especially at that point of the season now where every couple of days we have another game. And, I have to say the Brentford one was a little, we'll talk about it in just a moment, but the Brentford one was kind of interesting. We coming off that massive week we had.
Right.
We're talking about Spurs and then Bayern and then Chelsea. And thankfully we were coming home to face Brentford, who potentially tricky. Not obviously not the caliber of Chelsea, but definitely not one we can walk in and expect to walk away with 3 points easily.
Right. And, the first half in this one I thought was really solid. We've had a bunch of good chances on our own. They only really had one, which Raya did an amazing job stopping that header going in. But it was the second half was a little nervier. Like we still only had one goal for almost the entire thing until the second one in stoppage time. I was like, they're really knocking at the door. It was a little more tense.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So I had watched this one on replay and true to form, on my side, I knew the result going in, just watching for the purposes of talking about it here. It does take a lot of the jeopardy out of it as a viewer when, of course, you know how it ends. And it wasn't, because I've had a few high stakes games, or even where I know how it ends, you see a few close plays and you still go, oh, almost. This one didn't really have a lot of those. I mean, statistically, we dominated this game. I thought overall, other than a stretch in the second half, especially towards the end, otherwise I thought we did generally fine. But I guess as I think about it, the early goal was so important to how this game played out. And it felt, as I was thinking through this week felt a little bit more like last season. right? Where if we didn't score early, you start huffing and puffing, you get a little nervous. And yes, goals change games, but it really felt like in this case, Marino getting the early goal really kind of changed the complexion of the game for us and allowed us to be more confident, more front foot, on the front foot, really push forward, create our opportunities. We didn't convert any of them. And some of the post-game commentary from people watching live was very much in the mold of, ooh, this was touch and go. I don't know. I felt a little nervous. And and of course, watching the result, I kind of controlled this game. Wasn't really a problem at all.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was definitely in that camp where like I said, especially the second half was just kind of like, okay, they're not pushovers. Like, this wasn't what I'm hoping and praying it will be against Wolves this coming week, where, like next to no threat. Like, they're not that. So yeah, a couple fun things that I noticed I wanted to ask you about. For one thing, I started noticing a technique that I hadn't seen used in any soccer matches before, and then I saw Arsenal do it a couple times in the same game, where you'd have a throw-in. And typically when a player's throwing it in, you would expect that they're throwing it to a player's chest or to their feet, and then you play out from there. But what they did instead was they threw it so that it landed kind of toward the legs, or didn't really land, but so it intersected with the player, like around their legs, for them to boot it in whichever direction, like, toward another player further away, as a way of, I guess, getting around the defense that was trying to get the ball back, and just kind of expanding the reach of the person doing the throw in. It was a cool idea, and it seemed like it was executed well. They're ready for it, and they were sending it wherever they had decided they wanted it to go. It was pretty cool. We didn't really see any long throws from Arsenal, I don't think, this week, but that's something. It's in that same camp of like, how else can we make use of throw-ins to make scoring opportunities and move the ball the way we want?
Yeah, I mean, we're obviously a very deliberate team. And when we do something, it's generally very much part of a plan. And we've talked about set pieces, and I suspect whatever it is we're seeing there is again a deliberate design, as you said, to sort of move around the defense. We're not really a long throw team. Like, I've seen Declan Rice try it a couple times, and I just come away thinking, there's got to be something else we can do here. Because there are some clubs, and I think Brentford is one of them, right? They have a couple of players who can really hoof the ball in, and basically a throw in deep in the opponent's end becomes almost like a corner kick.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
A free kick,
yeah,
because their ability to just get it into the box with their hands.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that's something that Arsenal is working on more for Gabriel's return once we're able to score more frequently, like we often do from corner kicks. Of course, this week also, not only like corner kicks weren't looking great for us this week. Not only did we, in the Brentford match in particular, I think Rice only took one of our corner kicks, and I think his was fine, but then we had a whole bunch coming from the other side of the pitch, with Odegaard and Madueke taking them and not going where we wanted them to. But I think even when they are going where we want them to, a lot of times we don't, without Gabriel, like, he's our big corner scorer, our big Gabby, right?
Yeah, without him as a threat, it is a little different. But I think the service generally wasn't as strong. Certainly in the Brentford game, we saw a few corners. They hit the first man. They don't, or they aren't quite where we want them to be in swinger wise in terms of the box. I think we'd be critical of the kicks in general in this game.
Yeah.
I think with the long throw-ins, I think the problem isn't any set plays we have for them. I think the problem is we don't have someone who actually can really throw the ball that far.
Yeah.
Like, it's like anything else. If you don't have that part of it, then it is a weapon to have a player who can, really, chuck it that long distance. And sure. I don't think we have that guy.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, we have done a couple long throws, but I guess maybe they haven't gone well for that reason, and maybe that's why they've kind of given up on it, it seems. But yeah, I think also when it comes to not scoring from corners this week, though, I think it was at Aston Villa that we didn't get a corner until into the second half. Like, they were, I don't know if it was a combination of us not necessarily taking so many shots, and also their defense just like, not clearing it over the byline, like actively avoiding giving us corner opportunities, which I know a lot of teams try hard to do. So.
Well, I mean, yeah. Ideally, you'll clear out to the sideline rather than behind behind the goal for the throw in versus the corner kick. I think in the case of Villa, it was more just a case of we just weren't doing enough offensively. We just weren't creating enough chances. We had created some opportunities, but we didn't take them very well, and so we weren't forcing the kind of tackles or the blocks or the saves that that would lead to those to corner kick opportunities. We just weren't doing that, so that's why we were struggling in terms of getting corners.
Yeah, definitely. So as you mentioned earlier, Messi-era came off right before halftime. I was really hoping that it wasn't that bad, but then of course we didn't see Aston Villa, so we know it must be at least a little bad. They brought in Timber to act as Messi-era's and Saliba's like kind of right side center half position. How do you think that went?
It went okay. I guess the one benefit to the center back injuries is we have a lot of our outside backs can actually play center back. Like Calafiori can play center back. Timber can. Ben White can. Remember, Ben White's whole first season with us was actually at center back. It was kind of a big deal when he moved out to right back. We're like, whoa, he can do right back, and he's really good at it. Yeah, they've said weeks when it comes to Messi-era. It looks like he just kind of landed awkwardly, unfortunately, which is, what do you do? I mean, I know people want to go after the training staff or the medical staff and, muscle injuries and all that. Sometimes the guy just lands wrong and there's not a lot you can do about it. And it's not even like we could point to a Brentford player and say, look, he pushed him, it was dirty. No, it just, two guys went up for the ball, he came down awkwardly, and that was it, unfortunately. So, yeah, it's frustrating. It really was a frustrating one. It just, again, like we said with the clusters, it isn't just that guys are going out injured, it's that it's another central defender is out. And again, it kind of puts us in a place, and I thought we handled it okay against Brentford. I think it was Villa where you really started to see it taking a toll on us. Timber's a fine player, and I think he's played some center back for the Dutch national team. Hincapié, of course, plays center back, and some of it's just getting used to each other still. But you're really starting to stretch the limits of what your roster is capable of.
Yeah, definitely. We also saw Madueke come into the Brentford match, and he started actually, and I think then did Saka ever come in, or did
he came on later in the game?
He did. Okay. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I see that now.
Yeah.
So Saka came on for him in the 61st minute.
He did score, so he's good. He's not that good to score from the bench.
I forgot that. So Madueke, it was a bit of a rough match for him. I got the impression like he started off really strong at first, but faded pretty quickly. I know the player, what was his name? Henry was on the jersey. I don't know the guy's full name, but the guy who was marking him kind of didn't really give him any room to maneuver. He wasn't slipping him at all.
Rico Henry.
Okay, yeah.
Is the name. Yeah, I mean, he does make a cheeky little pass there for the goal, so he had some nice interplay with White and down that side. But yeah, overall, I think he's, I don't want to say a one-trick pony because that's a little unfair, but I do think he has, if what he's doing doesn't working, I don't think he quite has the same level of plan B as some other players might have. So, again, and part of that is just he's not Saka, which, okay. That's not a criticism of the guy as a player, but that's always the chance you take with that kind of squad rotation, is that when you let a player like Saka get that rest, that means you're playing with somebody who just isn't quite as good as he is. And, Madueke does some nice things for us. But just, you get given the choice, you'd rather have Saka out there, but for totally understandable reasons, he got a rest for this day.
Yeah. So in the first half, as I mentioned, like it was generally pretty dominant against Brentford for us. The one moment where I was like, ooh, they got a corner kick and they had a great delivery right into the 6-yard box, headed goalward very hard, like a very direct header. And Raya just popped up unbelievably quickly and pushed it just high enough to glance off the crossbar and then bounce back into the pitch. It didn't go over the crossbar. It like hit the underside but didn't go in. Just kind of bounced back out into the field. And that was close, because that would have really changed things a lot had that gone in.
He had a couple of good saves this week. I know we're focusing on Brentford a bit more here, but I think Villa too. He had a couple of really good saves. He hasn't been called on to do that a lot this year. And It's nice to kind of remember that he does have that in his arsenal, so to speak. Pun not intended. But he's able to do that and make those kind of saves, because he doesn't get asked to do it a lot. We don't give up a lot of shots. Even in our weakened defensive state, we don't give up a lot of shots. And so, he saved a couple of goals, certainly this time around this week. Especially in the Brentford game when it was still 1-0. And that's a game, if it starts to get away from us, how does that go?
Right. Yeah, so that was a pivotal moment. And for anyone listening to this or watching this right now, and you feel like you want to know a little bit more about Raya, you can watch our short that we posted on Friday. It was a quick profile. It's a series we're going to begin doing of Arsenal players, just kind of talking about their history, a little bit of an overview of them. So if you want to see where he came from and what he's like, what he's all about, you can watch that. But yeah, so it was a pivotal moment. And I'm glad we have him. Glad he did that. I want to talk about the first goal a little bit.
Yeah, we mentioned it before. It was a great little cheeky no-look pass from Madueke to White. It's nice to see Ben White streaking down the right-hand side and flipping across into the box. It's nice to see that again for old times. And there's Marino, who looks pretty much like a striker, making the exact run a striker makes, gets his head on it. He has like 25 goal involvements this year, goals and assists for Arsenal and Spain. Like, it really is something else. It really has been incredible what he's done for us in that position this season, to the point where I think this is a bit overblown, but not as much as maybe we'd like. In some ways, especially here in Brentford, I thought he was much more effective than Victor Gyökeres was when he came on. And, I don't know. Maybe there are games where Marino up top really does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's a little unfair to Gyökeres maybe when he comes on late. Like the match is in a very different state by that point. I don't think that he was necessarily getting the same service that Marino was early on that led to that header. But yeah, no, I mean, if you just look at the numbers, I mean, clearly I think Marino's been more productive by this point in this season than Gyökeres has been. Yeah.
Really anybody for that matter.
Yeah. I think,
being honest with ourselves.
He does have the most goals for our club at this point, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy.
And he follows it up. He makes a great pass. We talk about the second goal. Gets it to Saka. Saka had a couple of opportunities, including at least one that he just really needed to put in that rebound chance and didn't get it. But he gets another opportunity later, hits it hard, and Kamin Keller, the who was Liverpool's backup keeper last year, played at Liverpool. Makes the save, but not quite. And it just kind of bounces over the line.
Yeah. He popped it up and it went over his head, but it still had enough momentum that it hit the ground and bounced in. Yeah, that was it bounced so high off his hand. It just seemed completely improbable that it would end up going in, but I was delighted when it did.
Yeah, part of it's how far out he is. Keller's a little bit far out when he comes to make that save, so when the ball pops up and is able to drop down in, and he and the defender are both back there. I think it's Keller who actually gets his hand on it to swipe it away, but of course it's across the line. So
right, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was already a couple feet back. Yeah, he was around the 6-yard line when he got his hand to that. Yeah, the first time.
But yeah, that was definitely kind of. at that point, definitely the game was over. It's 2-0. They've got one shot. I think they got one shot on
time.
goal.
Yeah. Yeah. So Brentford, I left that match feeling pretty good about Arsenal for the rest of the week until Aston Villa.
I mean, in a lot of ways, this was going to be tough. We talked about how tough last week's games were, but I mean, just obviously, we talked a little bit about the depth we've been dealing, the injuries we've been dealing with, and how it's affected our depth. I do think there's a point to be made here about the relative rest. So we played on Wednesday and then again on Saturday. Villa played on Tuesday and then played on Saturday. For them, it was a home game, so we had to travel up to Birmingham. Also, it wasn't just a Saturday game. It was the early kickoff. Now, obviously, for me, it was 6:30, very early. For them, it was still 12:30 in the midday, as opposed to the evening ones, which is when we've been for most of the season, really.
Yeah.
It feels like we've had a lot of those.
Yeah, it's been an unusually high number of a season, yeah.
Late. I think that a lot of that is just, we've talked about the schedule we've played, right? And all the difficult games we've been having. So there's the high profile matches, and also just Arsenal, so high profile in general as a title contender, I think is a big part of that. Mm-hmm. And then you throw into all of that, because I don't want to just entirely put this on us, and this is all because Arsenal was bad. Villa's been in very good form lately. They're currently up to, I think, third in the table. They were third in the table coming into this. I think they're currently sitting in third now, still after the win, probably. Playing very well at home, and with a couple of guys. I mean, most notably Unai Emery, former Arsenal manager, Emi Martinez, former Arsenal keeper. A couple of guys who clearly want something when they play against us. They've been a problem for us the last couple of years. Arguably, that it was that loss to Villa. That loss to Villa was the only one we had in the backstretch in 2024. And I wouldn't say it cost us the title, but we don't lose that game, we win the title. So troubled history. It's this is a tough one. So we went scoreless for the first third of the match, and then disappointing lapse by Eze, and that opened things up. So we were on the back foot, for the rest of the first half, and for the beginning of the second half. But we had a couple halftime subs, so I guess Arteta kind of wanted to switch things up a little bit. Yeah, and I think also for all of you could easily have named Mikel Merino the man of the match for the Brentford game. He was not particularly good against Villa. Eze was the other one who came out also, responsible for the goal, but I think also just kind of had a kind of indifferent performance. Like, I think, we don't generally see those kinds of things, but obviously getting Gyökeres and Trossard on, I think it paid immediate dividends. We were much better at the start of the second half, and it took us less than 10 minutes to finally get one back.
Yeah, and once we did, I was really just kind of hoping that we scored again, but just more than that, just hoping that we didn't concede again, and just kind of in that mindset, I guess, for the rest of the second half. And we did play a lot better. We did have a bunch of chances. They weren't quite able to finish them, but except I guess there was maybe one that got called back or something. I don't remember when that one happened, but. That one
I think was earlier in the game. I feel like that would have made it 1-0. We had an opportunity. I think it was Saka scored. Eze scored. Saka with the assist. Yeah. It was offside. It was the right call. So yes. I don't have any complaints about it. But again, goals change games. We get that early goal that they're chasing. Allows us to maybe sit back a little more. We definitely played pretty well at the start of the second half, and I'd say for maybe about the 10 minutes after that too, I thought we were really good, and we had a couple of opportunities there where it felt like, we were this close to just punching in another one, and not winning the game, but definitely kind of seizing control of it. And at that point, we'll talk about their goal more in depth, but it did start to feel a little bit like that might be coming,
Yeah, they were driving pretty hard, and it started off that way, and then it kind of reverted to that toward the end too, where it's slipping away from us, not controlling things the way that I like, and apparently the way that my wife doesn't like. But yeah, so everything really fell apart in stoppage time. So it was a fairly low amount of stoppage time they gave us. Oh, I guess now I'm thinking of the other one. It was like 5 minutes, and we went through almost all of it. And then just a frantic hubbub in the middle. They played a ball that was almost a corner kick. Like it was a cross from near the touchline, played it into the box, and it kind of just bounced around a little bit. Players hit the ground. I can't tell as I'm watching the replay right now which player it was who hit the ground. Maybe was it Rice? Rice or Zubimendi? I'm having trouble identifying which. But yeah, it was like two players like went down. There was like it looked like an American football tackle like pile. Like everyone was just huddled around, and eventually the ball broke through and went in the goal. Went into like a narrow gap between two defenders, and that was it. That was crushing. I mean, he ended up blowing the final whistle before the broadcast team was done even showing the replays of it.
Yeah, it's just one of those where there are so many different moments in that, and really it's just it's a combination of just a failure to clear the ball. And that started to happen to us even before that. A couple opportunities where it's like, we need to get that ball out, and just kind of wasn't. That led to some of the close calls they got. And then a little bit of good fortune, too, in those instances where the ball finally falls to Buendia, and he's able to get a shot, get a clear look at goal. And he buried it. And, especially given the whistle blowing right afterwards, I mean, it's hard. It's interesting to watch, because we watch we watch these games in the morning, which is obviously a very different part of the day. And so I can imagine watching even a later kickoff, even one that had been like a 10:30 or even a midday kickoff. You react a little bit more like you'd expect in the stands because you're more awake. With this one, certainly where I was, I think the general sense amongst all the people I was watching with. A much smaller group comes in when it's 6:30 Texas time for the kickoff. It was more just a deflating, like, oh.
Yeah.
Like it just, because we did, like you said, there were large stretches of this game we didn't play very well. I think all the things we talked about in the lead up to it, I think are a big part of that. But also, there was a point where somewhere in the second half, I think as we started to feel the game shift, where I was sort of thinking, and a few people are saying it out loud, like, I'd take 1-1, and I'd take this game at 1-1. We are not playing well. This is a tough place, tough opponent. And, to be able to walk out of there with a point, I think would have been good. It's funny, we talked a lot about Chelsea as a title contender. Chelsea apparently has drawn their 2 games since they drew with us. So nobody thinks they're a title challenger currently at the moment.
Yeah.
They might yet climb back in it. I don't think anybody's thinking about Aston Villa in those terms.
I'm actually seeing a loss and a draw.
Oh yeah, they did lose in there. That's right, yeah. Leeds. Oh gosh, that's right. But then they drew with Bournemouth again. So much for that title challenge. So now they're currently 5th. Certainly not dead, but 30. Villa's there at 30 points. I don't know that I see Villa as a long-term title contender. They're not. They have some good depth, but I think they're also currently in the Europa League. So I think that's going to start to tell a little bit later in the season. But they're a good team with some good players.
They're in great form now. Yeah,
and they're certainly playing very well at the moment. They are only 3 points behind us at this point. I think Manchester City is the one I look at and go, oh, if somebody's gonna run us for the title, it's going to be them. But this is the Premier League, and there is a lot of quality, and it's just hard to sort of take that. You just don't get to take a day off, really.
No. So, speaking of taking a day off, we had a couple yellow cards given in this match. One was more consequential than the other, but yellow card to Calafiori. He's got some accumulation going on, huh?
Yeah, that's accumulated cards. I think it was his 5th of the season. So he is suspended for our next game against next Premier League game, I should say, against Wolves. I mean, it was one of those that as soon as he did it, I was like, I'm okay with that yellow. It was a cynical challenge, obviously there to stop a counterattack. That's a clear yellow card. I didn't have a problem with it, especially where the game was starting to drift at that point. The frustrating one came out right afterwards. Saka, clips Maatsen. It's a foul. It's not a bad one. And of course, he then tells the referee what he thinks about the call, and the referee tells him what he thinks about Saka's thoughts on the call, and out comes the yellow. So that was a little frustrating. I mean, Villa is certainly a chippy, potentially physical team. They're not afraid to mix it up, and there were a couple times where I thought they were a little close. It was a choice not to give a yellow, but overall, I think really the big comparison between the what we saw from Villa and what we saw from Chelsea last weekend. Villa was physical, but certainly not dirty. I think with Chelsea, it was a little more like trying to rough things up. They came out, in hockey, you might say gooning it up. They were definitely coming out to make those kind of challenges and create that kind of game. I think Villa played a more controlled physical game. And, I think it was just a game I normally would feel pretty good about us playing, but I just don't think we had enough in the tank to play it as well. And again, we still almost got away. I mean, Buendia, it wouldn't be, I mean, you can easily picture that same end game scenario and Buendia just rifles that ball into the second deck. Like it didn't, it's a heck of a strike from him to get it into the net. We were this close to walking out of here with a draw, and, deserves got nothing to do with it, but I also don't know that, I don't think a loss was undeserved. Let's say that. And we did not play particularly well.
No. All that said, who is your player of the week this week?
This one is tough because I thought we had a series of good performances against Brentford and a series of poor performances against Villa. But I'd say I'm going to go with Martin Odegaard as my player of the week. I thought, first, I'm just excited that he played 90 minutes across both games. Yeah. Got a lot out of him, which is good, as we talked about him coming back from injury.
For the second time this season.
Yeah, for the second time. Well, I mean, we talk about the injuries, guys going out. It's good to start seeing guys coming back in. And hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we see a few more get folded in as we get into the holidays. And I thought overall he was certainly dangerous when it came to the Villa game. I thought he was involved in many of our key moments. I thought he was pretty good against Brentford as well, in a game where we were overall much stronger. So for me, it's Odegaard this week. Although there are a couple others I had thought about as well, and you were thinking about some of them too for your pick.
Yeah, it was tough this week. I mean, almost no overlap between who I would pick for Brentford and who I would pick for Aston Villa, and it was like after the Aston Villa match, I just couldn't for the life of me think of anybody who I wanted to pick. I was so deflated by it in the end. But I'd say for Brentford, it was definitely Marino's game. He was in good form. He was on point. Just, an outstanding performance from him. And overall, I'm going to give it to him for the week. But I also want to give some mention to Ben White, who's, only recently started playing again in the Premier League for us. And maybe out of necessity, but, for whatever reason, doing a good job. I was really happy with him in that Brentford match. And, it was good for the moments when we had it to be able to see him and Saka and Odegaard kind of coordinating like we got used to the last couple seasons before this one. So that was good. I think also if I were to pick a player for the Aston Villa match alone, it would definitely be Saka. He had the most dangerous chances over and over again. And, they didn't go his way, but he was doing well, doing the things he needed to do. But overall that game, I just kind of just want to forget about it. And I'm going to pick Marino.
Fair enough. He was definitely, I think, the man of the match, as I said, for Brentford. I'm not so sure about his performance against against Villa, but I certainly for Brentford, definitely looked really good.
Like I said, I'm just kind of taking Aston Villa out of consideration for Player of the Week this week. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the way that the Premier League table looks right now, and then we'll get to the Champions League a little bit after. So, as you mentioned, we are top of the table still. It's always fun to say that every week. It's been that way for a while now. I'm starting to get used to this. Mm-hmm. But we do have a couple clubs within striking distance at the top, City and Villa, like you're talking about.
Yeah, we sit in first with 33 points. City 2 behind us at 31. Villa 3 behind at 30. The big difference there is that Manchester City equal on goal difference with us at plus 19. Villa's at plus 7. So a little bit different there, in spite of Villa's general good performance over the last several weeks. In City's case, it's driven by their offense and Erling Haaland, whereas in our case, it's still our defense. We've only conceded 9 goals. City have conceded 16 at this point. So giving up a goal per game, which is unusual for them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. It was also fun. I was just looking out of curiosity and knowing that we're facing Wolves this coming week. I was like, oh, how are they doing? I know the last time we looked at the table, they were not doing particularly great. Tell me, Keith, how many points does Wolves have right now?
Wolves has 2 points. They are well on pace to be the worst team in Premier League history. That distinction is held by, let me just confirm that.
And also, while you're confirming, Premier League or top division history?
Premier League at least.
Yeah.
The record currently is 2007-2008 Derby County. 1 win, 8 draws, 29 losses for 11 points on the season.
Okay.
Wolves might beat that. They have struggled mightily this season. There's really no
beat that in the bad way.
Be worse than beat that in terms of the record.
Yeah.
There's a general understanding, or the tradition of the sort of marker is dead last on Christmas is sort of seen as that team is almost certainly going down. I think there's been like 1 or 2 over the years that have rescued themselves from being there, but it's going to be Wolves, and I don't see them turning that one around. They've been hemorrhaging players for years. It seems like they're in a bit of they've got a lot of resetting to do, which I guess they'll have to do down in the Championship.
Right. And I mean, even for them to overtake Burnley at this point, who's at 19th, I mean, they're at 10 points, like, which it's still not great. But I mean, the Wolves would have to win 3 games while Burnley continues not to win any.
I mean, to be fair, that's not an unusual thing to expect of this Burnley side. They have 11 losses in 15 games. The big one with Wolves is that they are, they've scored 7 goals. They've scored fewer goals than we've allowed.
Right.
I mean, that's.
Yeah.
Now we say that, by the way, I should say, as we record this on Sunday evening, Wolves has only played 14 games. They are home to Manchester United tomorrow, Monday. So.
Oh, okay.
Probably not getting a lot better. Wolves has 2 wins across all competitions this season, both in the EFL Cup, and including, by the way, they went winless in their preseason friendlies. They are. It's a rough season for Wolves. Let's just say that.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, it's a good asterisk that they might get another point or 3 maybe tomorrow, but yeah, it doesn't really materially change the conversation if they did.
No.
So meanwhile, we return to a Champions League this week. What is that table shaping up like?
So we're at the top of that one. Remember, still unbeaten. Only 1 goal conceded in the Champions League, which is very exciting. I believe we've officially clinched the round. I think we certainly clinched the knockout stages. Just in case you were worried about that. We're definitely going to the knockout stages, and I was double checking, had we clinched the top? I think we had clinched the top 16 spots.
Oh, okay. It looks like...
Yes, we're assured of at least, well, I guess at least to the playoffs. So yeah, we're not automatically on a 16. We're assured of finishing in the top 24. Which we're the only team to say that.
Right. I'm trying to figure out what the color coding means on the UEFA site for this. We've got a little green line and a little blue line next to us that nobody else has, and there's no key explaining what that means.
Yeah. So what I'm guessing is, so we've clinched at least, as I said, we've at least clinched the knockout phase playoffs. We're
Right.
definitely at least that far. We're the only team to have that at this point. Now, I think if you're in the top, teams in the top 8 currently are going to make it, et cetera, et cetera. So I feel pretty good about that. We will not finish in the bottom 12. That I can be sure of.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
At this point, no one has been officially eliminated from the Champions League with 3 games to go. Even though poor Ajax sits there with 5 losses from 5, they're dead last. Boy, what an awful run they're having.
0 points. That is rough.
Yeah, 1 goal.
Ooh.
Anyway,
they're a club that like I've heard of that are pretty well regarded. That's nuts.
They've won the thing like 3 times.
Yeah,
I mean, granted, it's been a while since the last one, but still,
right.
like that is that's not a team you'd expect to be down there. Yeah.
So meanwhile, after we defeated Bayern Munich, I see that PSG has overtaken them on tiebreaker metrics. It looks like
it's on goal difference.
They beat them on goal difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's interesting, but yeah, I mainly just like taking the time a little bit every show just to kind of say, yeah, we're top of the table, and just kind of enjoy it, because it may not last forever, and enjoy it while it does.
I mean, it's worth pointing out, in spite of the bad performance we saw against Villa and the drop points and the goals conceded.
Right.
We're top of the Champions League. We're top of the Premier League. Like, this is not a time to panic. And I don't think anybody really is. I hear a lot of chatter from other fans, the usual sort of banter. I don't feel like I get the same. There's some frustration from some Arsenal fans, but overall, it doesn't seem like anyone's particularly like the sky is not falling for us, and no one's acting like it, thankfully.
So meanwhile, we looked at the place of Wolves on the Premier League table. Our next opponent, we're playing Club Brugge next in the Champions League. Where do they sit?
They're currently 26th in the table. They would be out as of today. They're not a bad team. So they're certainly a team that's having a decent season. Obviously, in Belgium, they won the Belgian Pro League last year. Where are they currently? Let me pull up that table real quick. As of right now, they are currently 3rd in the table. Union Saint-Gilloise is another Champions League side, is currently quite in front. But having a decent season, they're one of the top clubs in Belgium, one of the handful that's always got a shot at winning that title. So it will not be an easy trip going to Bruges, but one where I expect to see a fair amount of rotation, given where we are and what we've been through the last week. I shouldn't say that. Looking with Wolves coming on the weekend, I think you're going to see some rotation across the 2 games, but I wouldn't surprise me if we put out a fairly strong team. And given he's out for Saturday, 90 minutes of Calafiori, I think, is pretty much a guarantee.
Right. Yeah, I see that they're level on points with Atletico. So yeah. Or it's Atletico. Yeah. I was just making sure I'm not talking about the wrong, because they always list them as Athletic Club, but that's Atletico in Madrid. That's
they're Athletic Bilbao.
Bilbao. That's right. Yeah. That's right. Okay, but still, that is another club who we played and beat already this season, and they're like level on points with them. So yeah. Thank you. I was mixing those 2 up. So, what is coming up next this week?
Well, we've kind of run through it already, but just a friendly reminder. Wednesday, Champions League away to Club Brugge. That'll be on Paramount Plus here in the States. And then on Saturday, Premier League game against that dreadful Wolves team. I don't want to say too much about it because that will definitely ruin it. But that game will be on USA. That's a late kickoff. I think it's like 2:00 my time. That's a late kickoff. One more thing to throw in that coming up this week. We're recording on Sunday night. On Monday, I guess, afternoon U.S. time. I'm told it's about 6:40 in Britain and about 12:40 where I am in Texas. Will be the draw for the 3rd round of the FA Cup. That game will be in the 2nd weekend in January. We'll get our draw there right in advance of the final match of the 2nd round, Brackley Town and Burton Albion, if you're interested at that stage of the Cup. So we'll see where we're going to be in January for the third round of the FA Cup, and that's always a fun one. I'm looking forward to that, and just kind of crossing my fingers that it's not that we don't draw United or Liverpool or something like stupid like that.
Yeah. And as always, the Bruges match is on Paramount Plus, like all Champions League stuff. Thanks for joining us at Gooner U. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can also listen to the podcast version of our show on Apple, Spotify, and some other places. If you're only listening, try watching us on YouTube with the link in the show notes. Your homework for today is to comment on one of our videos, either here on YouTube, or on whichever platform you prefer for our shorts that we release each weekday: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Threads. We record the show using Zencaster. If you'd like to try it out, you can support Gooner U by signing up using the link in the description, which also has links to everything we talked about and our socials. Again, my name is Dove, and you can find me on Twitter at DoveFrankel. With me, as always, is Keith, and you can find him in a pub watching Arsenal matches.
And just remember, you too may someday win the coveted FIFA Peace Prize.